Have you ever tried something innocently and then suddenly found yourself in a fire ant riddled foxhole in the middle of the jungles of Vietnam? Your platoon just assumes you're dead and flicks the ignitions on their napalm they just dumped everywhere and kind of glaze over the fact that you're missing? Yeah, me neither. Anyways, let's talk about the time I ate way too many edibles and saw a god. There's like fucking gnats all over in here, just buzzing in my eyes. And so this is like the fifth take I've done. I'm sweating like crazy too, so this is just not good. So this was probably back in about 2017. I was still living in the dorms at college. My birthday was coming up, and my high school girlfriend and I had broken up after about 5 years. Now, one thing that my ex never let me do was dye my hair any crazy colors, and seeing as how this was before I had my monitor head, I really wanted to dye my hair red. It's my favorite color, and I thought it would look cool. Now, the only person I knew who had the ability to dye my hair was my friend, who we'll call Homer for the sake of this video. Now, Homer is pretty experienced in dyeing hair and has been doing it since we were in high school, so I really trust them to do a good job, and they did, but that's not the focus of this video. You see, at the time, Homer was a big fan of THC products. You know, weed. Now, to clarify, this wasn't my first time on the carousel. I had smoked with Homer a couple of times in the past, your typical strains, Trainwreck, AC/DC, Girl Scout Cookie, and once we even did Gorilla Glue. Now, Gorilla Glue is dangerous. Not seriously dangerous, of course. The only time weed gets really dangerous is when combined with other substances, of course. But if you have a baby's tolerance like I did, Gorilla Glue is very dangerous. In fact, the time I smoked it, I almost passed out, but that could have been because we were drinking mixed drinks or some other factors we weren't aware of. Now, before we start the hair dye, Homer asks me, "Do you want to eat a pot brownie?" I'd always heard these mythical stories of the ancient but dangerous satanic power of weed brownies and edibles in general. So of course, when Homer asked me that, my response was, "Yes!" And that is what I made the first mistake of the night. Homer decided that the proper dosage for me to take in this specific edible was a brownie and a half. Now, this was a ballpark number because we didn't understand my tolerance and we didn't know how much was in each brownie. So after taking them, Homer gives me a rough estimate of how much THC I had just consumed. They said, and I quote, "You just consumed more weed than you and I have consumed in one sitting." To which I replied, "Oh, I'm gonna fucking die." Now, the glass tube I was grown in didn't fucking grow a bitch, so I decided I was just going to go with the flow of things. Sadly, the flow was less of a lazy river and more like whitewater rafting in nothing but the skin I was born in and an inner tube. Now, we started dyeing my hair by bleaching it. I had pretty dark hair back then, and bleaching was heavily required. When it comes to edibles, though, time is the name of the game. Your body has to metabolize it, and depending on how much you take and how empty or full your stomach is, metabolization can make the buzz hit between 15 minutes to about an hour. For me, because I was a little college boy and had no real money, my stomach was pretty empty. So about 15 minutes in, I'm beginning to feel the chemicals from hair bleach turn into fire ants on my scalp. That probably sounds like an exaggeration, right? But it's not. It actually felt as if fire ants were biting my scalp. And when it came time to wash the bleach out, that's about when I started climbing to the peak. Now, it really fully hit the peak about an hour in, but when I had my head in the bathtub, rinsing the bleach out of my hair, I was pretty blacked out and not aware of what was going on. I remember it feeling like I was being waterboarded through the back of my skull, which is very unpleasant. Homer told me what I was doing, and apparently I was just on the floor, head in the bathtub, cackling like the Joker as I rinsed the bleach out of my hair. I don't really remember the worst parts of it, but eventually Homer had to drag me back to their computer chair so they could finish the dye job. Here is where things got bad. So my stomach was starting to hurt, and the spins I was getting were ungodly compared to anything I had ever experienced while on alcohol. I was getting motion sick by just existing, and everything I touched felt like I was being hit with a steel bat. It was just pure pain. Adding to this was Homer applying hair dye to me, and every little motion they made while applying it felt like I was on a ship in the ocean and the white whale was in the waters beneath us. Finally, they finished up and I went to the bathroom to scrub the hair dye out, which I needed help with because I couldn't stand up straight. So Homer walked me to the shower and helped me wash my hair in the cold water, which also did not help the situation. I was spinning and now being doused with cold water, and everything was just awful. I hate it. At some point, we ordered pizza, which we thought might help my stomach, but it wasn't going to come for hours. So I decided to do the smart thing and just sit and try and ride out the spins for a little bit. Homer was trying to keep me awake this entire time and failing because every time I closed my eyes, I felt like sleeping. Eventually, it happened. Homer asked me if I'm alright, and I snapped out of my dream. They said I was stuttering like crazy and trying to tell them something, but I was far too stoned to tell them anything. After that, I went and laid in their bed in an attempt to sleep off the high. 2 hours later, the high is gone, and Homer has our pizza. Mine is half eaten. And I had like werewolf visions of eating the pizza, you know, like in werewolf movies when they have like nightmares of eating a deer. So I didn't blame Homer, but goddamn, I ate the fuck out of the rest of that pizza. Anyways, that's the whole story. Am I convinced I had seen a higher power or the devil? Kinda, but not in a way I'll ever understand. Is there anything you should take seriously in this video? No, definitely not. Have a good night.